PM's credibility check. Mark Carney is not exactly what he seems to be. Well, I think everyone who's reading a little bit into it knows that it's not all rainbows and sunshines. Actually, with Liberal Party, it's mostly rainbows and sunshines, but that's a different topic, right? Anyway, let's go. Let's see what this gentleman has to say about Mark Carney.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney seems to like to take credit for things that aren't exactly his. For instance, on Friday, the National Post had an exclusive story claiming that while writing his 1995 dissertation for his PhD at Oxford, Carney lifted at least 10 sections from other authors' work without giving them credit for it, without mentioning their names or putting a footnote in that says, I got this from so-and-so.
Okay. Now, let me pause it. Obviously, I'm not from Canada, right? But aren't you guys doing like copyright check as well? Like in my country, in Czech Republic, they would just fire you for that. First of all, you didn't list all the sources. Second of all, because you didn't list any sources, it kind of makes it feel like a copyright issue, right? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how it works in Canada. Obviously, might be hard to discover that there's some copyright issue, but as a dissertation work in university, that I feel like that should not fly. I don't know.
There are the Liberal ads that say Mark Carney helped save Canada during the 2008-2009 global financial crisis. Well, he probably did have some part of that. But as former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who was in charge of the government at the time, said, he's listened with increasing disbelief as Carney has taken credit for things he had no part of. For instance, Bank of Canada governors, which is what Carney was at the time of the financial crisis, Bank of Canada governors do not do day-to-day management of the federal budget. They don't do day-to-day management of the federal government. Yet Carney seems to claim that it was his wisdom that got Canada through that crisis. Now he also claims that he got the United Kingdom through the Brexit crisis. That's not exactly how the Brits read
Brexit crisis.
There are an awful lot of people in Britain who were very unhappy.
Oh my God, this guy, Boris Johnson, does he always look like he just woke up? It's it's crazy, man.
Happy with Carney at the time of the Brexit referendum because he helped start a fear campaign to suggest that getting out of the EU would be very bad for the United Kingdom. I happen to agree with that. I happen to think Brexit was a mistake.
Brexit was a mistake, for sure.
But the point is the bank...
Okay, so the Brexit, was it a mistake or no? You know, I would kind of compare it to how the US feels right now. Like, definitely UK has been abused. Well, maybe abused is not the correct word, but taken advantage by some other countries in the European Union, right? And if you don't know how the European Union is built, it's obviously the purpose is not to support the countries with lower quality of life or lower economic power or whatever you want to call it. But that's what it actually does. Like, all of these rich countries are pretty much supporting all of the not so fortunate countries, which Czech Republic was one of them, right? We get so many donations from European Union. And obviously UK being one of the richest countries in the European Union, they paid so much for all of these like little, I don't want to say mooches or leeches, but yeah, like they paid quite a lot. So in this sense, the Brexit would be good for them. to just get away out of it and literally be like UK first. And again, here you can kind of see a resemblance with US, right? Like US and NATO. Right now, the US is the years ahead of the other members of NATO, and they have to support the other members and everything, which might not be the best for the country itself, but for the alliance it's definitely good. And the same thing, it was the European Union and Brexit, right? But at the same time, you have all of these trade deals, and UK pretty much just walked away from it. And now the European Union is trying to make money on the UK because, yeah, now you're not part of our union, so you're not gonna have the benefits you had before. So Brexit is kind of like, I think it was a mistake. I think the UK would be doing better if they stayed as a part of European Union. And looking at their politics and everything, they still very much behave like they're part of European Union. But yeah, I don't know. Like this is kind of like I can see both sides, and me personally, my opinion is that it was a mistake. But
of England
who am I,
governor,
right?
which is what Carney was at the time. The Bank of England governor does not have a political role. He should not be engaging in fear campaigns to try and sway voters for or against any particular position in a referendum. But that's what he was doing. He's also taken credit since he left the Bank of England for the environmental record of Brookfield Asset Management, which was one of the largest investment companies in Canada, and claims particularly to be really big on green initiatives, green alternatives to fossil fuel energies, and on human rights.
Here we go, and that's what I was missing a lot. Pretty much up until now, no one was talking about it, that Mark Carney has some shares or some position or some ties to this environmental investment firm. So pretty much all of the carbon tax and him trying to reach the net zero, it's beneficial for him. And I don't mean beneficial like, oh yeah, we're gonna have cleaner air and all of it, but financially beneficial. Like, how is that not conflict of interest? Like, explain that to me. And that's what I was missing this last, what was it, 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks since Mark Carney was elected. Like, I heard about it once, and then it was quiet. No one was talking about it. And finally, this gentleman mentions it again. So it really reminds me like, well, the scale is obviously different with Mark Carney and the environment, but it reminds me COVID and Doug Ford when he had a company that printed all of these 6 feet 2 meter stickers. First of all, 6 feet is not 2 meters, like at least get it right? But I mean, everyone was saying it. But how is that not conflict of the interest when the politician has a company that gets this major government contract and is actually able to affect the COVID protocols and everything, right? That was to me conflict of interest like crazy. And that's another kind of hard thing for me. Sorry that I'm talking about me, but talking about conservatives, knowing that Doug Ford is conservative and Ontario is not doing too good, that's that's kind of hard pill to swallow for me. But we know that Pierre Poilievre is something different, and from some interviews I saw with him, I'm not sure if he's a fan of Doug Ford. So yeah, I guess we shouldn't throw them into the same basket, even though they're members of the same political party. But anyway, let's continue.
Well, at least 2 major reports from environmental and human rights groups that say, for instance, Brookfield overestimated the amount of emissions it was saving with its investments by a factor of 12. They were producing 12 times as many emissions as they were emitting. And that's how they were getting these great green ratings. That's how they were attracting moral investors, sustainable investors, people who were looking for investments that didn't produce an awful lot of carbon emissions. And there are other reports that show Brookfield, in its third world green energy projects, has a kind of questionable human rights record. You don't hear that. You don't hear Carney trying to take credit for that. In fact, he's also trying to not take credit for Brookfield moving its head offices from Toronto to New York. Now, who would you trust?
Again, this was a big controversy I heard about. So once Mark Carney found out that President Trump will win the election, he moved his headquarters from Toronto to New York. How is that Canadian? How is it Canadian? How is it Canada first? Like, obviously, he did it to evade, escape, whatever you want to call it, the tariffs from President Trump, right? And even if there were no tariffs, like, obviously, company as big as this will pay kind of a big taxes, right? And the taxes will go to Canada. Well, now they won't, because he moved from Toronto to New York, and that's the guy who's the prime minister right now. Like, how can you trust someone like that? But let's see, there's going to be more dirt. We still have 1 minute of the video, so let's see.
To deal with the Americans on tariffs.
Yeah.
Pierre Poilievre or Jagmeet Singh or Mark Carney, who took the head office from the company he was in charge of and moved it to New York. I think Carney is not what he appears to be.
Another thing is, regarding this move, he keeps lying that he didn't know about it and that it happened once I think he stepped down or something like that because of the politics. But a move like this, it's not going to happen from day to day, right? It's not like, oh, I stepped down on Sunday and the move happened on a Wednesday, so it's not my fault. It wasn't my idea. I'm clean, right? No, it was planned since he was in power of that company, like in charge of the company. So it's just ridiculous to hear him lying about it. And there's actually a proof about it. I don't know if it was some signatures or something like that. You can Google it up. Sorry, I don't really have time to look for it. But yeah, like it's been proven that it was his doing, that he decided to move the headquarters and pretty much take money from Canada and give it to US and avoid tariffs. What a great prime minister who cares about Canada, eh?
And I think after this election, Canadians are going to figure that out. I hope they figure it out beforehand, because Carney has the same staff, much of the same costs,
Here we go.
much of the same cabinet, and many of the same senior bureaucrats as Trudeau does. And perhaps most importantly, many of the same policies. I think Mark Carney is just Justin Trudeau 2.0. And I hope Canadians find that out before April 28th, when the election is held. For Post Media, I'm Lorne Gunter.
Exactly. That's the biggest issue a lot of people don't understand. Let me just make this bigger. Woo! That's me. Anyway, yeah, so that's that's kind of what keeps baffling me, how people think with Carney everything's going to change. But no, he's still a member of the Liberal Party. And trust me, if he didn't follow what the Liberals want him to do, they would get rid of him. They would never elected him. Also, he was an advisor to Justin Trudeau. So obviously the difference is not there. Like, he was literally helping him with the policies and all of that stuff, right? And yeah, he has the same PMs, same people in power. And I heard the opinion like, well, yeah, obviously they're not going to change everyone before election, right? But do you really think liberals would allow to replace everyone who was there during Trudeau's, how would you call it, Trudeau's term or whatever, like this term that liberals have? Like, to me, it's literally they just replaced Trudeau, but it's still the same party, still the same policies, still the same agenda, still the same ideals. And yeah, right now they're just doing whatever they can to get re-elected. Like, you can see it with the carbon tax. Speaking of carbon tax, first of all, my issue with that, first of all, is that they got rid of the carbon tax only for the households, right? But not for the industry. If they got rid of the carbon tax all over, like everything, industry, commercial, households, the prices would go down. But no, they got rid of only for the households, which obviously for the voters is going to be like, oh yeah, they're doing something, they're saving our money. But we can do even better if they would get rid of it in general, like completely. Another thing, where is the carbon tax money going? Is it improving something, or is it helping us to build sources of the clean energy? Because I haven't seen anything like that in Alberta. And obviously, listening to the Daniel Smith, it doesn't look like we have any sources of green power in even like planning for the next 10 years, right? So like, where's the money going? Like, are we just going to the forest? Even though in Alberta, again, we don't have that many forests. So like, yeah, we have Banff, but other than that, right? Anyway, so you're going to the forest and just giving it to the tree, and there's like freaking treasure chest or something like that, or like who's getting the money? And yeah, another thing, this I admit that this might not be the liberal issue, but I remember before they announced that the carbon tax is gonna be done, gone, deleted, done so. The gas price was somewhere between 140 to 145. Today I was looking at the gas station and it's 168. 168. And the carbon tax is supposed to be 25 cents, I believe, right? So how is it possible that all of these gas stations were allowed to spike the price? So when tomorrow we're going to get rid of the carbon tax, the price is going to be exactly the same like before the announcement about carbon tax. So someone's going to make money, but it's not going to be the citizens. Like, it's not like the citizens will save the money, like the Canadians, right? It's just some Petro, Shell, whoever is going to make more profit, while the Canadians will pay the same price. And I know that it's not really federal government who can affect it. But tell me, how is that possible? How is it possible that they allowed this to happen? So in the end, there's not going to be a single benefit for the Canadians. I mean, natural gas will be cheaper, obviously, but the gas for the car, no. It's going to be the same price.